Welcome to one of the most unreasonable real-time strategy games that I've ever seen. With 99 commanders loading into the map, 33 of each faction, we're finally going to determine, with no argument, decisively, which faction is best. Here and beyond all reason, the game made by volunteers, absolutely free to play, inspired by total Annihilation. But it will cost you a big chunk of your free time, and possibly even more of your sanity. But before we get started, it'd be awesome if you could smash that like button, or maybe even subscribe, helping counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? Yeah, I know it's tacky to ask at the start. 1,099 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. So pick your faction. If you know nothing, if you have some stereotypes about which faction is best, prepare to have them confirmed or maybe learn some new ones. If not, this is about the closest demonstration we'll get of the late game scale of each of them. But we'll start with the Armada, in the blue, known for their fast and furious units, from the lowly ticks swarming around to the titans later on and the atomic bomb of the Lich overhead. Armada a bit more finesse-oriented, more about punching through or outmaneuvering your opponents, especially in smaller team games, than it is about brute force. Somewhat unlike their counterparts in the red, the Cortex, with the biggest, strongest, and they might say best units, but the most clear roles on those units. They're not going to be winning any sprints or even marathons necessarily, but the hardest hitting and the most, I guess, the easiest to micro in many senses as well. But last and certainly not least, the new, unique, experimental faction, the Legion, is nearing completion, under development, a unique faction to beyond all reason. Armada and Cortex, based on their counterparts from similar games previously. But the Legion is something pretty much entirely new. Similar roles for the units, especially early on, but has a set of drone-based units later, napalm launchers in order to do some much more dramatic zone control, and tier 3 heat ray mechs, as well as a whole lot of original models and designs that they might not be perfectly balanced at this stage, but they're certainly perfectly fun. As the first two brawling it out. Now we are in space, which means no wind, but the self-propelled aircraft are still going to be relatively okay, it seems. You take a look at the pie chart overall, you see the lines growing. Yes, technically, the air units of each side can interact, but I seriously doubt they're going to be able to hold much ground. Oh, my favorite of the Tier 1 units from the Legion, the Wheelie, the scout car, is, well, it's exactly what it looks like. Has a little gun strapped to the top, but mostly it's for getting around quickly. Though here, it's going to be kind of hard to outmaneuver your opponents very much, as you have the two rings of, well, the map is actually called Space Donut. Okay, it's Project SD, which stands for Space Donut, and designed for these massive team games. But it looks like Cortex on the outer ring of the Legion front, making some progress, though the inner front not holding quite as strongly. Armada and Cortex brawling it out. We have the Incisor tanks against the rocket bots, the Rocketeers. Each set of units at Tier 1 is somewhat different, but the disparities, or I guess the more unique units, start showing up, especially at Tier 2 and Tier 3 with the gantry. Centurion anti-swarm bot. Armada's taking the outside here, whereas Cortex making more progress on the inner ring. Armada also making a lot of progress with those Whistler missile trucks. Up against Able One, who's just standing there and taking those missiles. Incredibly annoying to deal with, though they don't do a lot of damage early. The Decurion armored assault tank, one of the strongest Tier 1 units. 300 metal, and you got yourself this massive tank with a minigun that still dies to a D-gun in a single hit. So you gotta be a little careful. But very strong early on, and can even compete with Tier 2 as time goes on. A few napalm tanks as well. Let's take a look. Things filling in. Only 1,500 units on the map for now. So, as we see more and more. Cave Doggo. I believe that's a direct reference. and some of the ballista rocket bots. The Legion rocket bots have a larger rocket, which actually does matter. Because here in Beyond All Reason, while other games might say if you zoom out 4% and raise the unit cap by 5, that will literally melt yours and the server's PC and can never be done. Here in Bar, 99 players, total unit cap of about 32,000, and each projectile and attack is either potentially physics-based or damage drop-off, or there's a whole lot of little details you can get into. But still, more is usually better. Unless you're factoring in flanking damage, an angle of attack, and certain resistance. And the incisors coming by. Hail wall up. The wall's not protecting them from the run by, but just enough to keep it intact. Killed. Ooh. Commander's taken down. There's a Tsar already on the field. The tier 2, very heavy assault tank. It says it right there, all right? Very heavy. I'm not here to judge. Kill. Kill. Cortex all about those heavy hitting. Not necessary. Commander trade. They were getting up close and personal to one another, and it appears the foregone Romeo and Juliet style conclusion has eventually manifested itself. Now, on the Armada Legion front, Armada, the missile trucks helping forward, artillery continuing shelling. But so far, nothing too decisive. Both sides still just holding the line. And Armada making some progress on the outside, but Legion holding near the center. Victor, very far forward with Sophie, has quite a push coming together for the Cortex against the Armada. The rocket bot's not finding a lot of success. The Lasher missile trucks just poking away, kind of the equivalent of the Whistlers we saw on the other side. Victor feeling quite spicy right now, getting chased down. The Janus rocket launchers, those hit a lot harder. Less range, but that's a lot to deal with right now. As we see a lot of players focusing their efforts here. And remember, behind all this, behind the dramatic front line, the backline economy, whether for unit production or late game production or anything like that, is going to be so important. Victor taking terrible, terrible damage. One more shot from the Janus. And if he gets killed here, it could take down... Oh no, get out of there. No! The rockets, and it takes down half the front line. It's a disaster. A completely predictable one, but no, that will break the missile trucks. Getting too close, too personal. A dangerous place to be. The rockets and artillery exchanging. But relatively quiet on the northern front, besides a few dramatic exchanges. Some players have taken the asteroids down the center with those aircraft as well. The backlines, you can see the total energy production in the top right corner of each team. Should be pretty clear which one's which. That eventually becomes the most relevant, as in order to build units you need metal. And as time goes on, the best way to get metal is actually using space alchemy in order to get it from energy. You just pound the energy into... Don't ask. Alright. But that is how the late game economy usually works, is having so much energy you can convert it into metal at a rate even higher. But of course, having metal extractors is the most efficient way by far, especially until that supreme late game when you're looking at triple-digit energy production. Triple-digit thousand, to be clear. Not triple-digit. That's like 5 solar pounds. The napalm driving away some of the missile trucks. Holding so far a little bit of air. But how is this front going? The Cortex making a lot of progress. Let's go to the pie chart. Self-destructing commanders, air brawling it out. But it does look like Cortex has held that center line up here. And now they're making a front on this side. So, just eyeballing it. So far, the Cortex definitely finding a lot of success early with those slow but strong units. They don't have to be that quick to get to the front here. All right, slow and steady wins the race. Well, it's not really a race, it's a deathmatch, but still, that Tsar has 31 kills. I feel like at least a couple of them commanders. Right now, Legion with 30 commanders left. A cloak commander there, let's see. Ah, yes, they have radar. So the commander is tagged. Even if it's cloaked, you gotta be a little careful of that if you think you're being sneaky. But I want to take this time to point out the lack of vision. Notice, as one of these Cortex players, no idea how well the Legion Armada front is going. So, of course, you never want to be too ambitious, at risk of getting completely overrun. From our perspective, it's pretty clear how things are going, but on the other side of things, well, Tips getting chipped down by the Decurions, and the Cortex beaten back for now. Mosquitoes from the Legion. The, well, very Dune-looking ornithopters, one of those very cool unit designs. A light gunship with stockpiling rockets. So, effectively, you send it in, unleash a salvo of rockets, and then, later on, you can come back with another round. So, good for bursting. But the Banisher missile tanks, driving them back for now. Pretty much one-shot all but the heaviest air. Just a long reload time. Armada making a lot of progress as well. The Tier 1 Legion getting beaten back by some Mausers. The mobile artillery just pounding its way through, and not in a fun way. The Space Donut being filled. Another commander taken down. What's happening to the north? We've got another Banisher Tsar push, it looks like. Just Banishers here, but still so good at pushing forward against relatively small amounts. Just blasting, just targeting the commander. And if he dies with the front line, be careful! Oh no. Clearly target, the commander is cloaked, but that doesn't necessarily save you with radar. One more hit. Oh my. Those rockets not quite landing. They're not perfect accuracy, especially against targets they don't have a direct visual on. But, I don't know if standing still will save you. He's already losing most of his production. Trying to turn that into a valiant sacrifice. A Banshee, serving the same role it does in StarCraft, which is dying if you don't micro it well as a air-to-ground gunship. Some of the Decurions getting sniped off on the side of the map. Commander destroyed. As the Cortex making a lot of progress, it seems, across the board here. Some Fiends have joined the front as well. They're little flamethrowers, one of the best frontline units. As long as your opponents don't have a lot of point defense, because they're relatively squishy. Excalibur trying to hold, but I think Legion needs to step up their unit production here. As Cortex just blasting through some of the D-guns will help hold the line. Rockets exchanging fire again. But Armada making a lot of progress. 3,500 units on the field. Artillery at the back, rockets and missiles in the front. The field being coated with projectiles now. Feels pretty clear that the Armada is moving forward, though we haven't seen any Tier 3 yet. We're only 12 minutes in, but with this much economy, oh, maybe soon. A quick check into the north. I'll admit, I'm most interested in how the Legion is doing, being the newest faction, and my favorite to play, partially because of the unique mechanic. The thugs just marching. Tsar moving forward. A single Tsar, 20 kills, blasting apart both fronts, and it looks like another commander is on the agenda. One goes down to the north, the thugs still pushing the Tsar, the Banishers, direct hits from the missiles, and down goes another one, the Armada, down to 24 commanders already. The Tsar just king of each of these fronts so far, but finally some Tier 2, some Tritons. I believe these are kind of new. Heavy convertible tank/boat. Is that an amphibious? Well, that, I don't think I've seen this. This is a new unit to me. Legion getting updated with new models and units almost on a, not quite daily, but at least a weekly basis at this stage. The Medusa rocket launcher has a targeting laser to help with its accuracy as well. I believe being microed not to hit units nearby, because of course friendly fire isn't. Some more Medusas. A Prometheus assault tank. Not enough to stop the Tsar, though. Arquebus railguns. Not very much damage, but very long range, eventually picking through it. Mosquitoes coming up at the Cortex. Still breaking through. The Fiend starting to work on the economy. Little half squad over here. Doing his best. Trying to hold it together. Some light laser turrets as well. But there are 5 or 6 Cortex commanders along the front. Repair bots are bringing the Tsar back intact. Another one. This Tsar has 50 kills. It's bashed through the entire front. Up to 3,800 units on the field. Triton's doing a... How much HP do they have? 3,100. The Tsar's at 12.3 thousand for comparison. When fully repaired. But this Tsar is actually very highly ranked. So, veterancy usually gives units more HP. Rarely does it do damage increases, but surviving this long means this Tsar has almost like 50% more HP than its counterpart here. So there is some real value in keeping it alive. Phalanx, shield defense bots, as well as hoplites moving in. The tier 2 front line, relatively fragile in the grand scheme of things, but per cost, pretty good at holding. Unlike the Legion against the Armada so far. Really struggling to hold the line. Armada has made a lot of progress. Legion getting squeezed right now between the two more long-term factions, but finally some air moving forward. Multiple tactical missiles at the front. We've got bombers moving through. It looks like a couple made it past the lines. The anti are relatively lacking. Is that a long-range plasma cannon? Thought I saw something coming across, but some shields are coming up. An incinerator. The heaviest tier 2 assault unit for Legion. 2,300 metal for effectively a massive heat ray. You know, it's a bargain, or so they say. The Legion defense contractors, of course. Meanwhile, Thanatos rocket bots, long range, peppering everything, including the Sheldons, which are kind of a similar unit for the Cortex. Yeah, definitely some long-range plasma cannons, LRPCs, a Phoenix, drawing lines of fire across the field. Phoenixes and a Tyrannus battlecruiser is on the field. Air starting to get worked in, higher tier air, so it survives more than somebody looking at it meanly into the sky early on. Air units incredibly fragile until you get close to tier 3, in which case they can survive a few more hits for exponentially greater cost, though. A gang of Arbiter rocket bots and Sheldon mortars trying to move forward. The tank's still on the ground. The Tyrannus helping to hold. Decent amount of kills so far. Another commander taken down. Was that atomic bombers helping knock things out? Atomic bombers wipe out a commander and everything nearby. The Armada leveraging those late game units. Haven't seen much from the Legion besides a few heat tanks. Some Bastion heat defense turrets can sweep across the field. Quite a strong option, both against large amounts. So the Legion kind of splits the difference. The Bastion heat defense can do great work against large amounts of small units, but at the same time, it can focus its efforts on the large ones as well. Something which the other factions... Oh, the Phoenixes! Oh, burninating across the countryside. The Phoenixes laid out a line of literal fire and burned through a commander. And now some of the stronghold gunships chasing down the Tsars. The Tsars with dozens of kills, but with a commander broken. I think the Legion may have held for now. There's still a whole lot of tanks on the ground. The Tiger assault tanks, the rank and file. Thanatos continue unleashing the rockets. Oh, the Astreus. We've got our first Legion Tier 3 online. The Myrmidon, the armed all-terrain drone carrier mech, which has literally one of everything. It has a long-range plasma cannon, has a cluster plasma cannon, artillery targeting, salvo missile launcher. It also carries drones, as well as having anti-air capability. So, it is, well, I guess Myrmidon is correct. The Astreus long-range cluster plasma siege mech. Blasting away. So it's a plasma cannon, but it fires like 4 or 5 shots at once. For the low, low price of 11,000 metal. One of the most expensive units in the game. But we've got that tier 3 coming online. A lot more air working in and above the battlefield. The Tyrannus starting to assert themselves. A Karis heavy tank and anti-swarm. Another tier 3 unit. The Phoenixes burning their way through. Another line of fire. Tries to line it up, and the commander is taken down alongside most of the tanks on the front line. The Legion airstrikes just cleaving through the defenses. Well, the attack, rather. And helping support with this long-range setup. Legion was pushed back, but certainly not pushed out. They're definitely retaking the momentum. And I don't see any tier 3 on the front line here. The Astreus at the back, and more of them in production, starting to halt a whole lot of the Thanatos as well. Looks like the Armada Legion front has slowed down significantly. Some Starlight lasers. Another example of the Armada being very good. Their units are very good usually at one particular role. And when they're doing that role, absolutely crushing. The Starlights have very long range single target damage relatively cheaply. Can easily take down tier 3 units, but when faced with a lot of spam or having to maneuver at all, like with napalm launchers, it's maybe a bit dicier. Do they punch through the shields? It looks like the lasers go right through the shields as well, but so do the heat rays. The Starlights are going out as the heat rays go in supernova. So, we've kind of ignored the Armada Cortex front. It seems like for quite a while... Oh, a volley of tactical nuclear missiles. They cannot be blocked. They cannot be stopped except by taking out the launcher. Not a huge radius, but huge damage. Some Razorbacks on the ground as well. Some Marauders. The tier 3 is very much online, but the Razorbacks just... It's like those tactical missiles are dangerously close, trying to target. But the Razorbacks just glide into the shields. Looks like there's enough defense, though. And the D-gun from the commander, Sophie, turns it around to the D-gun. Helps with the survival. Legion has pushed back. The Cortex trying to put together the defenses, but the Grunts easily being cut down. Legion, at this stage, has a whole lot of anti-swarm capability. The ability to take out so many, I guess, legions of those smaller units. There's a wave of Arquebus over there as well. The Banishers starting to stack up. And as time goes on, and the weapons become more dangerous on each side, you start to see the no man's land, or the no bots land, start to extend somewhat. Because everything in that area just gets glassed or obliterated nearly immediately. It's total annihilation. As we see here, the streams of grunts coming through, but easily getting blasted apart by a charcuterie board of anti-swarm tactics. The Myrmidons. Oh, the Phoenixes! Coming in from the inner circle, looking for another pass, potentially on some of the economy. Long-range anti-air cannons knocking them out of the sky, but even as they fall, they're still a danger to everything underneath. A demon! The Cortex demon has hit the field, one of the tier 3 units. A nuclear bomber helps take it down. And Ordinary finishes it off with a D-gun, but the Starlights moving forward, marching with a Titan on the field. And the Legion without nearly the same level of defense on the Armada front. The Bulls, one of the strongest frontline tanks. The Commander's taken down and the frontline broken before they can really put anything together. That's an Armada Commander. The Legion's still an Armada Commander. And Astreus is holding. But it can't deal with all this. Some hoplites coming out, but the line will be broken. We've got some more scouts coming in. Nuclear bombers at the back, fighters engaging across the board. Are there any nuclear missile silos? Do you see any? One of the 5,500 units on the field. The Astrea's getting overrun. The Titan leading the charge. There is a radar. They should have vision. And the Starlights. They ran out of energy. They can't fire. They ran out of... Oh, no. It's a huge mistake. The D-guns eventually taken down, but that one commander, the sacrifice not in vain. Running out... The Starlights cost a lot of energy to fire each shot. An easy mistake to make, but at a key moment... Oh. We've got Cortex Tier 3 online. The catapults. The long-range salvo rocket launchers. Very effective at covering that general area with explosives. So, both sides. We've got cluster artillery from the Legion, as well as cluster rockets from the Cortex. Over on the Armada front. Some more Bastion defense towers. Is that a Praetorian? I believe so. A Praetorian. Multi-weapon shotgun assault mech. Multi-weapons, but mostly shotguns. I'd put it as the equivalent to like half an Armada type. It's a bit of a catch-all. It isn't the strongest. It isn't the sole Invictus. But it's a very strong frontline option, especially when you need to shore up your defenses and you can't really put any other units on the field easily. It's a very solid mid-range choice. Meanwhile, Razorbacks to the north. Some Shivas from the Cortex looking to match them. Demons as well. The Shivas, a very... If I say very one more time, smash that dislike button and then go right back. But everything very good. All right, it looks great, feels great, sounds great, tastes great. But is it great enough to win the game? And right now, the Cortex actually have 100k more energy production. They have scaled almost an order of magnitude better on the back line. You see those fusion cores popping up. And so far, doing a pretty solid job of it. And you know what? I want to try something. Will this... Yes. Alright. For the people... Just assume there's a lot of people out there. Bring that back up if I need to. $6,400 units on the field. And AC man on the front. Some Shivas complementing. Incinerators on the front line. Astreas on the back. Catapults firing down the center. Looks like long-range napalm launchers over on the Armada front. The catapults. The incinerators glassing everything before them. The Astreas dealing with the backline. Direct hits on huge swaths of grunts, but another volley from the catapults. The incinerators are melting and the Shivas are marching. There's another catapult push towards the front. But there's a lot going on the Armada Cortex front, or Armada Legion front. Saw a lot of explosions, but it looks like the conclusion has been reached there. Generally, though, the Cortex definitely taking more than their slice of the pie so far. Legion getting squeezed, and Cortex having almost as much energy as both other factions combined is quite a thing as well. Nuclear missiles could be attempted, but it shouldn't be too hard to cover with anti-nuclear interceptors because of the relatively small land footprint of the teams. I imagine there are dozens of anti-nuke out there. The Cortex definitely making a lot of progress. We're going to flip around and take a look at this angle just to get a feel for it. The Arquebus are no match for that amount of metal. That is a lot to get through. They need much more splash damage. Arquebus are great single target, but clearly not enough. The Cortex marches, and there's even more behind it. The sheer amount of production. There's a line of... Those are just anti-air bots, just in case. Cortex marching on both fronts. We can see the catapults on the other side. I think both teams are really focusing on repelling the Cortex. The Legion Armada front relatively quiet. Bombers headed north, looking for a target. Some of them making it through. And all take it out of the sky simultaneously, but might drop on the construction turrets, almost taking them out. Not quite enough. The brawl continues throughout the field. What? Oh, some Karganeth walkers. The rocket crabs. Tyrannus trying to hold. Astreus overrun. Praetorians on the front line, but still not enough to drive back the Cortex push. We are losing on both sides. Yes, you are. The Legion struggling against the more experienced factions. Prometheus doing its best. But so far, there's some more Prometheus, but another shock coming through. Some of the long-range plasma cannons are finding purchase. The shield's not really covering much of the field so far. We haven't seen too many. In fact, I don't think we've seen a single super long-range plasma cannon. Well, here we are. The Calamity. The Calamity for the Cortex. The Starfall for the Legion. And the Ragnarok. Those options for the Armada. Each was slightly different. The Starfall with the least range, though the most area of effect. The Calamity and Ragnarok more similar. I'm not actually sure which one has more range, but just a rapid-fire plasma cannon to overwhelm defenses and obliterate everything behind them. Nuclear missiles across the board! No anti-nuke at the front wipes out the push. And suddenly Sol Invictus is online. All systems nominal. The Sol Invictus experimental thermal ordnance mech. 2 massive heat rays on the top. 110,000 HP. Able to just burn through everything in the front. It's got some shotguns strapped to it for anything that gets closer. Just a whole array of options. Anti-air flak cannon as well strapped to the top if they get ambitious. This is the ultimate mech. Custom model like everything for Legion. Just blasting and burning its way through. And with those nukes already carving a path on the midline, the Legion is striking back. Another direct hit on the front line, and it is completely shattered. It's a calamity for the Cortex. Meanwhile, the front to the north, Armada Cortex still relatively quiet. Cortex with a huge economic lead across the board. I saw a Ragnarok coming together. There it is. Just started, though, for the Armada. A lot more long-range options. The standoff continues. Inferno napalm launchers. Oh, the Calamity is online, though. And its range is at least half the pie. There you go. Can get to some of the fusions. There's no shields there. Starting to rain down. The shields are only deflectors as well, which means... Oh, another nuke. No interceptor going up. Headed towards the Cortex front. Gotta be a little careful. Oh, it's gonna hit. A juggernaut. But everything in the midst. Everything less stable than the juggernaut is obliterated by a nuclear missile. But Juggernaut versus Invictus. The Juggernaut costs a bit more, has more HP, more suited to the single target options. I'm not actually sure. Another nuke. The anti-nuke is clearly not extending to the front, but the Calamity's over the top. There's 8,200 units on the field. But Juggernaut's getting surrounded by a lot of the heat rays. Very good at dealing with those larger targets. So things like Juggernauts, your mother behemoths, most tier 3 in general, it's going to be a lot easier for the Legion to maximize their damage with those somewhat finicky heat rays. The Tyrannus blasting back. Just a quick jaunt over to the north as the catapult juggernaut push, looking quite dramatic as well. Though Armada and Cortex have stalled each other out for most of this. Yeah, just look at that economic base. We have this, most of this area for Armada, or for Cortex rather, filled with advanced fusion. There is no tier 3 enabled in this version of the map, I believe. So, the highest level energy generation you can get. Another volley of nukes! Direct hits on the front line! And these nukes are keeping the Cortex at bay. Sol Invictus. The Calamity has wiped out anything not heavily protected by shields. At least in terms of buildings. Buildings actually remarkably fragile compared to many of the especially higher tier units. That Calamity's starting to target units themselves though. Sol Invictus dueling behemoths. Brenda has arrived! But, well, I'm walking here. You call that walking? Well, I'm technically yes. The behemoth, the slowest and most HP unit in the game, but so much to contend with without the D-guns from the commander to one-shot whatever gets close. I mean, obviously at risk to the commander itself. But we're about to pass over 9,000 units as the economy's reaching into the non-existent stratosphere. And still no clear conclusion. Cortex has an economic advantage. Looks like they're engaging the fighter war. Over the top. Dragons being engaged, but the fighters from Cortex helping to wipe it out. Who comes out on top? Puns intended. The dragons... Uh-oh. The Titans are falling. As the Cortex dragons are a lot to contend with. Just coating the field in fire. Long-range plasma cannons engaging, but quite a chain reaction. Getting by some of the defenses. The dragons glassing the front line. More nukes intercepted in the sky. Finally, the Cortex bringing something up to engage them. More massive hits to the north. The dragons unable to stop the Titans from closing the distance. And Armada finally starting to cut into the Cortex economy. More nukes. Interceptors knock them out of the sky. The field being covered with napalm, just denying any sort of spam. I keep defaulting to the Legion Cortex front, but it looks like Armada's starting to make real progress, pushing back the Legion as well. They're both at 250k energy to Cortex's 350. Is he we're firing long-range plasma cannons onto the asteroids. It looks like an Armada commander, but the dragons in flight. And there's not remotely close to enough anti-air to deal with this. The dragons can go right through the shields, incinerating the fusion cores, obliterating the front line. And several of them might be taken down, but not nearly enough to stop this from already being critical damage. There goes the Ragnarok. Some of the bombers taken down. Screamers knocking them out of the sky. But another... Alongside the chain reaction of the fusions, most of the dragons wiped out, but the damage has already been done. Terrible, terrible damage. Armada down to 178k energy, and that's not the end. Ragnarok for the Armada, down to 89k. They're all but out of it. An absolute disaster for the Armada. Cortex has burnt them almost out of the game. Still enough production and energy to keep either faction from focusing all their efforts on one another, but I think pretty clearly now. Now, the more difficult part is Legion doesn't know. Legion does not know how much damage was just done. They might have an idea, but from the Legion cam, oh, that is a lot of nukes. That is a lot of nuclear silos. That is a lot of nuclear silos opening up right now, but they don't know exactly the extent. The entire nuclear salvo. A new sun. One way or another. There's absolutely no anti-nuke. They're not firing any anti-nuke. Oh, wait! It's going towards Armada! Will any make it through? No. The anti-nuke is enough. Trying to just finally obliterate them. Looks like some more tactical nukes over there as well. Sol and Victus battling against the Juggernauts and Behemoths. Still quite a standoff. Microing some of them back. Cortex has a significant income advantage, but if one good attack breaks through, well, we've seen what can happen. The shields are holding against the constant plasma cannon fire. It's not quite in range to get to most of the fusion cores. Nuclear launch. Looks like Armada gonna get bullied yet again. On the front lines. Wait, what? Where are you going? Firing it across the board. Oh no! Oh, Cortex wipes out the front line of the Legion front with the Armada. Finding a gap in the anti-nuke coverage. Oh no. The Behemoths withstanding the withering heat rays and asking for seconds. The Behemoths will not be stopped. I will see. They will rule this sector or see it burnt to ashes around them. And that's going to be quite literal at this rate. As the Behemoths just so much to deal with. Let's go to the pie chart. Wow. Armada has not had a great day. Cortex has now claimed not quite half of the map, but they're getting there. Fighters over the top. You see the disintegration guns of the Behemoths over here. The plasma cannons firing. A whole lot of starlights on the front line. Looks like another... Whenever Juggernauts or Sol Invictus die, they explode. They have like a little core inside them. Alright. So, being too close to friends or enemies has collateral effects. A nuclear volley! Just launching one after another. The empty nuke flung out from the Cortex. And there simply is too much. They're unable to break through. Another nuke hits the northern side. The fighters just constantly streaming across. Legion trying to hold It does feel like the Cortex have taken a near insurmountable advantage. If there's no gap in the anti-nuke, if they have total air superiority, if they're able to keep the pressure on the ground, I'm not sure how you come back from that. But at least the destruction is glorious. A juggernaut incinerated. Sol Invictus holding. But they can't hold forever. Another set to the north. Cortex looking to finish off Armada once and for all. The ground army, still. The dragons, incinerating the last little bastions of economy Armada pretended to have. The final battle, the final showdown between the Legion and the Cortex. Well, the Cortex may be outflanking the Legion on the ground soon at this rate. Oh, the dragons are sneaking around the outside. Around the outside. Around the outside. The Invictus, though, pushing forward. Astreus behind the full might of the Legion. The Sol Invictus just incinerating the front line. The Astreus obliterating the back line. And everything in between. Total annihilation. The Resbots picking up whoever falls. At least if they're worth it. The Juggernaut's trying to hold. The plasma cannon's not targeting this line, probably because there's too much in the way. The Dragon's slipping around the back. Not sure if they've been spotted, but the Legion's starting to make some progress and actually getting close to the production. Pushing back a single behemoth, enough for now. But the Dragons sneaking around. That concave of lasers as the Legion pushes forward. The behemoths, as well as those, bulwark turrets, slowing things down. Another nuclear volley. The anti-nuke intercepting a lot of shots, and none of them get through. The behemoths are still working. The Dragons at the edge of space. Bombers trying to sneak in from the inner circle. Looks like some of them will make it. Some of them getting knocked off the sky, knocked out of the sky. Juggernauts, but a Sol Invictus to the south. And the Legion push. Finally, some starfalls. At least one starfall, but the Dragons sneaking in. Cortex has claimed the overwhelming. At this point, I think I could say they have half the map and more. The Starfall's at this point trying to stop the Cortex, but the Dragons are slipping around. The same tactic that worked so well against the Armada may very well be the ticket. Starfall's firing at the Cortex front as well. It's just so much. The Dragons making their way into the economy. Oh no, burning through the front. More Dragons from the back. They waited for the pincer. And it's only a matter of time. They're gonna find a juicy target. The converters, the fusions! There goes the neighborhood. And this time around, not even being close enough to have the decency to be obliterated by the collateral damage. No, the Dragons will continue their rampage, and the Legion will be cauterized from the field. The Cortex will reign supreme as commanders. How many commanders left? Legion has 7. Armada has 4. Cortex with 22 out of their original 33. What a game. Quite a demonstration. Another volley of nukes. No anti-nuke left. Not much of anything left. Some of the dragons get caught in the nuclear fire. Sol Invictus left behind. The dragons, what, you gotta go home? Some R&R. As the Cortex claim the space donut for themselves. And all that juicy donut metal they'll be able to chew on until the end of time. A very interesting game. I know we focused on the Legion fronts, especially Legion Cortex, though I do believe that was where the majority of the action constantly on all sides. But this was from the 50K Discord event. Bar now with over 50,000 members on the Discord, some of the most players. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's free to play. Can check out any mode of it. I really like the Raptors defense mode as well. There's a lot of versus AI games. And yes, the game isn't technically over because there's always 1 or 2 people who are going to hide in the corner with their commanders. But usually, so these massive battles don't happen all the time. Only 8 versus 8. Still an order of magnitude larger than many other RTS, but still. You can usually find them on a pretty regular basis. There's announcements on the Discord as well, and these special events. There's also going to be some matches of me playing as Raptors against 100 players. There's a 200-player match, which technically worked, though I think was really stretching the bounds of that definition. And a whole bunch of 50v50, free-for-all, everything in between. What do you want to see more? I know people want guides, tutorials. I can recommend. I have a few, but there's also a channel called Super Kaido. There's going to be a link in the description if Jimmy didn't screw it up that you can check out. Beyond All Reason, made by volunteers, made by the people, for the people. I know it sounds weird in this day and age, having a game made by players because they like playing it. And I know, it sounds like a scam. But here we are. One of the last bastions of, you know, games for fun. The Cortex will be crowned the #1 faction and Beyond All Reason, obliterating the Armada and the Legion in turn. And I think they get the credit for it as well. Somebody hit the self-destruct button. And it changed throughout at the end. But the space donut will be claimed. Where's that nuke headed? Seems dangerously close. Oh no, it's to the other side. How mundane. As the units continue on whatever their last command was. But I don't know if I mentioned this part of the new Lightbringer update as well, with the lighting and graphics being overhauled. Part of multiple parts. I'm looking forward to night mode as well. As one of the potentially environmental, not just aesthetic factors, but really excited to see more progress on Legion. I want to thank you all for watching as well, as the 40v40 from the last event has become my most popular YouTube video of all time. So, here's hoping that statement is a lie with this one. But, thank you for watching. Congratulations to the Cortex and their superiority. I certainly hope you enjoyed. I hope it made your day a little bit better. Check out Bar, or at least you can check out some more videos. But if you got the means and motivation, be awesome, check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So, Thank you for watching. Hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay unreasonable.